Those who take vengeance under the pretext of righteous indignation do more harm than good for the cause of Jesus, because they harden the hearts of many who may otherwise be won to the truth.
This is Mission 66, an adventure through God's Word. This program is brought to you by TWR in partnership with the Bible teaching ministry of Dr. Luis Sayao. We're currently in the book of Genesis. You can follow along with your downloadable study guide at mission66.org. Your teacher, John Matthews, and his co-host, Esther Sisulu, begin our study.
It is with great pleasure that we invite you to join us for another lesson as we study the Bible one chapter at a time. Well, today's adventure will take us through to chapter 34 in the book of Genesis. Does the Bible give us the right to defend our family's honor when we've been defamed? Does the Bible even give us permission to defend ourselves when attacked? Well, we're going to handle these questions today as we consider what the Shechemites did to Jacob's daughter, Dinah. And our teacher, John Matthews, will guide our thoughts now on the topic of vengeance.
Esther, thank you so much, and great to be with you all for this latest episode of Mission 66. A very warm welcome as we continue in this Bible account of the life of Jacob and his family, where Jacob's brother Esau had threatened to kill him for tricking him out of his birthright. And so his parents sent Jacob off eastward to escape the wrath of his brother Esau and to find a wife among the people of Nahor. And then there was Uncle Laban, who gave Jacob his two daughters as wives in exchange for 14 years of farm labor, and from whom sprang 12 sons and one daughter. And in the fullness of time, Jacob, he felt the call of God to take his family and then return to his kinsmen, that's people from his tribe, back to the west. And then in the fullness of time, Jacob feels the call of God to take his family and return to his kinsmen back to the west, to the land of Canaan. And along the way, he has this, how'd you describe it? Well, an uneasy but cordial reunion with his brother Esau after many years. And now then, Jacob continues on his journey, arriving at the city of Shechem, where he buys a plot of land and he sets up camp outside the gates. So let's read Genesis chapter 34. Now Dinah, the daughter of Leah, whom she had borne to Jacob, went out to see the women of the land. And when Shechem, the son of Hamor the Hivite, the prince of the land, saw her, he seized her and lay with her and humiliated her. And his soul was drawn to Dinah, the daughter of Jacob. He loved the young woman and spoke tenderly to her. So Shechem spoke to his father Hamor, saying, "Get me this girl for my wife." Now Jacob heard that he had defiled his daughter Dinah, but his sons were with his livestock in the field, so Jacob held his peace until they came. And Hamor, the father of Shechem, went out to Jacob to speak with him. You see, Hamor here wanted to smooth the affair over and offered a deal that would result in a benefit potentially for everyone concerned. But the sons of Jacob had come in from the field as soon as they heard of what had happened, and the men were indignant and very angry because he had done an outrageous thing in Israel by lying with Jacob's daughter, for such a thing must not be done. But Hamor spoke with them, saying, "The soul of my son Shechem longs for your daughter. Please give her to him to be his wife. Make marriages with us. Give your daughters to us, and take our daughters for yourselves. You shall dwell with us, and the land shall be open to you. Dwell and trade in it, and get property in it." Shechem also said to her father and to her brothers, "Let me find favor in your eyes, and whatever you say to me, I will give. Ask me, for as great a bride price and gift as you will, and I will give whatever you say to me. Only give me the young woman to be my wife." I'm sure you'll agree the sales pitch by Shechem fell a long way short of an apology or indeed any admission of guilt for what he had done. And verse 13 goes on to say, "The sons of Jacob answered Shechem and his father Hamor deceitfully, because he had defiled their sister Dinah. And they said to them, 'We cannot do this thing, to give our sister to one who is uncircumcised, for that would be a disgrace to us. Only on this condition will we agree with you, that you will become as we are by every male among you being circumcised. Then we will give our daughters to you, and we will take your daughters to ourselves, and we will dwell with you and become one people. But if you will not listen to us and be circumcised, then we will take our daughter and we will be gone.' Their words pleased Hamor and Hamor's son Shechem. And the young man did not delay in doing the thing, because he delighted in Jacob's daughter. Now he, that Shechem, was the most honoured of all his father's house. So Hamor and his son Shechem came to the gate of their city and spoke to the men of their city, saying, 'These men, they're at peace with us. Let them dwell in the land and trade in it, for behold, the land is large enough for them. Let us take their daughters as wives, and let us give them our daughters. Only on this condition will these men agree to dwell with us, to become one people, when every male among us is circumcised as they are circumcised. Will not their livestock, their property, and all their beasts be ours? Only let us agree with them, and they will dwell with us.' And all who went out of the gate of his city listened to Hamor and his son Shechem, and so every male was circumcised, all who went out of the gate of his city. Now, for an adult to be circumcised was no small ask, because it would have been considerably painful, and also you'd be running the risk of infection. But the Shechemites considered the pain and the risk worth taking. And so on we go with verse 25. "On the third day, when they were sore, as you can imagine, 2 of the sons of Jacob, Simeon and Levi, Dinah's brothers, took their swords and came against the city whilst it felt secure, and killed all the males. They killed Hamor and his son Shechem with the sword, and took Dinah out of Shechem's house, and went away. The sons of Jacob came upon the slain and plundered the city, because they had defiled their sister. They took their flocks and their herds, their donkeys, and whatever was in the city and in the field, all their wealth, all their little ones and their wives, all that was in the houses they captured and plundered." So this is vengeance on a grand scale, because they not only killed Shechem, but a lot of other people as well, and they plundered the city. And they may well have had some regrets about this later, after wreaking such havoc on people who had nothing at all to do with the original crime. But it was too late to go back and undo what had been done. And that is one of the big problems with taking vengeance. You cannot go back and do things over. And verse 30 says, "Then Jacob said to Simeon and Levi, the sons who evidently were the ringleaders in this attack, 'You have brought trouble on me by making me stink to the inhabitants of this land, the Canaanites and the Perizzites. My numbers are few, and if they gather themselves against me and attack me, I shall be destroyed, both I and my household.' But they said to him, 'Should he treat our sister like a prostitute?'"
This is Mission 66, and we're looking at Genesis chapter 34, which deals with what was a terrible, over-the-top vengeance that the sons of Jacob executed on the city of Shechem, all because of the wrongdoing of one person. Well, my name is Esther, and let's have a discussion today about the rightness or perhaps the wrongness of taking vengeance. Now, John, based on the way this chapter reads, and perhaps some people may even agree with this, that Dinah may have, without realizing, invited the sort of unwanted attention when she went out all by herself, trying to find some friends that she could make, right? I wonder if she didn't realize, though, that she was putting herself at risk, running off alone in this strange town, the strange city that she's never been in.
Well, all Dinah's doing, Esther, isn't it, is going for a walk without thinking anything bad is going to happen. And she has the misfortune, really, to come across this man, Shechem, who does something abhorrent that he should never have done. And what he does then provokes a response from Jacob's family. I mean, the level of the response is something else. But, in a sense, she does nothing wrong by going for a walk.
Considering also that the Shechemites perhaps may not have showed remorse, right? They kind of approached Jacob in such a way where it was somewhat arrogant, kind of saying, this is the way things are done in this place. Just fall in line, play the game, and just learn to adapt with how we do things. So I can imagine that may have played into the over-the-top responses of Dinah's brothers.
Perhaps. I mean, remember the Shechemites, the people of the land, had different false gods that they were worshipping. They also had different ideas of sexual morality than Jacob and his sons did. The question before us, I think, is what should Jacob and his sons have done in this case that would have been, the right way to get their point across, that would have been justified, but also proportionate?
I wonder if perhaps the better approach would have been to tell them that the way that they dealt with their daughter was highly offensive to them, and that, they asked them to apologize and make restitution for what they did. Maybe that would have been a better approach.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, there's no doubt as we look upon it that this response is way over the top. It's not proportionate to what's happened is terrible, but it's nothing to do with all these other people that they've killed. And so as we look at it, we think, it's hard to get our heads around. Let's be frank about that. We can't justify what doesn't seem justifiable. I mean, perhaps what they should have done is ask Dinah what she thought. Maybe they did. We're not told, but the original crime is done to her. So what is her thought process? What is she thinking?
John, I'm thinking that even if they, say, took vengeance on Hamor's son Shechem only, and they didn't exact vengeance on anybody else, I think that this would have still caused the same problem, right? There still would have been that fire that was lit either way.
Not in the same way, because, the word disproportionate, I think, springs to our mind, doesn't it, in terms of how they responded. So, there's lighting a small fire and then there's lighting a huge blaze. And so there is a difference. Ultimately, there are no real winners in cases like these. And this is one of the reasons that God very clearly states that vengeance does not belong to us. Vengeance, God says, is mine. I will repay. And the reason for that is he knows, and we, if we're honest, know that human justice is at its very best imperfect. When we try to get back at someone, we usually do more harm than good. Even the court systems, which are underpinned generally by an ideology of impartiality, innocent until proven guilty, but even those systems of the world, they fail in dealing proper justice very often. Either we're too harsh in our punishments, or we're tempted to be too lenient when harsher measures are called for, perhaps. So the truth is here, I think, is that only God can administer proper justice. One day he will. He has all the information in every case, and he's perfect in his judgments, and he's also all loving. So he doesn't deal with it imperfectly or with any type of bias. He knows not only what was done to whom, but also why. And so we can trust him that he will make sure that perfect justice is done. He knows the motivations that prompted the action. He also knows what, if any, extenuating circumstances that there may have been which would deserve an easier punishment. Yet we don't have access to that information as God does. And he asks us to restrain ourselves and not strike back. Leave it to God because he knows how to do it the right way. And simply put, we don't.
Oh, there are no truer words that were said. Honestly, that is the absolute truth. Well, look, John, I think everybody can agree here that it was truly an offense against Jacob's family. And I think that we can agree also that the sons were wrong in their violent actions and the way that they reacted, killing and looting the whole city, all because of one man's sin. But I tend to think that there must have been a reason why God included this incident in the book of Genesis. So is there a lesson that perhaps we can learn, something that God is showing us with this account?
Well, maybe it's showing us that there was a reason why God later intended that the Hebrews retake the land of Canaan and obliterate the tribes that inhabited it because their hearts may have been set on evil. Later, when the Hebrews came out of Egypt, they were to inhabit Canaan and displace the inhabitants. They'll be instructed not to make any alliances with or intermarry with Canaanite tribes. Another thing we'll learn in our journey through Genesis and the books that follow is that the working out of God's plan and the keeping of God's promises doesn't take place in a world of perfect people doing perfect things. Far, far from it. So those who follow God don't always act in a way that pleases him. And there would be tribal warfare and all sorts of messy failures. But through it all, God will still make his plan of redemption go forward. But very often it's in the midst of the mess that human beings have made that we make.
John, the text does indicate here that Shechem's heart was drawn to Dinah. And I don't know, maybe we need to make the distinction between whether this was real love or just plain lust.
Well, there are different types of love. There's earthly sensual love, which the Greeks called eros. There's something known as brotherly love. The Greeks call that phileo. And then there's the highest form of love, which the Greeks call agape, which is the kind of love that God has for us. So what is that agape love? Well, 1 Corinthians 13 says and describes what this love is. It's patient, it's kind, it does not envy, it doesn't boast, it's not arrogant, it's not rude, it doesn't insist on its own way, it's not irritable, it's not resentful, it doesn't rejoice at wrongdoing, but it rejoices with the truth. It bears all things, this kind of love. It believes all things. It hopes all things. It endures all things. Well, that is a far more noble definition of love than what we see Shechem demonstrating towards Dinah. The chapter says that he humiliated her, and humiliation has absolutely nothing to do with love. So feelings can be deeply deceptive, and whatever draws this man towards her, he acts abhorrently. He behaves in a horrific way that couldn't remotely be described as somebody acting with genuine and authentic love, because love ultimately is the act of placing someone else in front of you. It's the act of putting someone before you. And so what is love? It's sacrificial, not self-seeking. And so by that definition, we can clearly say that this man Shechem did not love Dinah, because his actions tell a very, very different story. I
know that there's a rhetoric that that very often people say that the movies have contributed to this sort of version of love that's quite unrealistic and perhaps even promotes the idea of love at first sight, which may be unrealistic in some people's eyes. I guess it might work in the movies, but if we're looking at it from real life scenarios, we truly have to be careful who we get together with. And we really need to take the time to know what sort of person we're dealing with as well.
Yeah, absolutely right, I think, Esther. And, true character takes time to discern, doesn't it? You need to see somebody in a lot of different situations, really, and see their heart's desire and what their ultimate motivation is. But also, I think an important thing here is see how honest somebody is about their own weaknesses. We're all weak. We all fail. We all make mistakes. Does somebody recognize that? Because the first step towards dealing with stuff that holds us back, you could call it failures or weaknesses, the first step towards dealing with that kind of behavior that can be destructive is understanding and admitting it. So there needs to be a reality about and an understanding of their own character as well.
Well, I'm thinking that maybe we can just widen our discussion about taking vengeance and perhaps expand it to the subject of self-defense, because I know that there might be some who are questioning this. Well, if I'm defending myself, is it permitted? When is it right to do so? When is it permitted to do so?
And yeah, what a question that is, Esther. And you're going to find a lot of opinions across the spectrum here. If we're talking, about Christians who know the Lord Jesus, we know that Jesus said to love and pray for those who persecute us. Jesus said, love those who hate you. He said, turn the other cheek. He said, be slow to anger. He said, blessed are those who make peace. Blessed are peacemakers. Ultimately, God is our defender. And so we try to live at peace with everybody. In the police, there is an expression sometimes called justified force, where the reaction must be appropriate to the initial action. But I believe the higher standard is expected of those who love and follow a Saviour, Jesus, who, what did he do? Where he gave his life for the sins of others. So within the context of that, I think Jesus' word, blessed are the peacemakers, rings really true.
I love that. We've had a chat about Shechem and his attitude. But I'd like for us to just shine a light on the attitude of Jacob's sons, Simeon and Levi. So, I see here that they felt that the honor of their family was being compromised, and they kind of ran with this idea that if anybody messes with our family, and in this case, particularly their sister, then they might feel the right that they can kill them. Let's talk about that.
No, you're right. They didn't stop at killing Shechem. And there's, certainly no evidence of turning the other cheek here, is there? They go after what can only be described as gruesome revenge. They take unfair advantage of men who are temporarily disabled after circumcision. And there is no authorization. They didn't have the Bible then, but we have no authorization from the Bible, and they had no authorization to do what they did, which was create havoc, running amok with death and pillage. So what Simeon and Levi did was abhorrent. And what's their driving force? It certainly wasn't an intent to be peacemakers. But here we see Jacob's sons motivated by, well, not love for God, by hatred and a wish for vengeance. Once again, the Bible tells us what happens in the story. There's no biblical authority to react the same way they did. And let's be honest, what we read here, this evil, this sin committed by the sons of Jacob, let's call it what it is. It's disturbing and it's confusing.
Well, John, what we've covered here today really does speak to real life issues that people face. And it's important for us, of course, to get the biblical perspective. That way we're walking on the path that God has for us. So with everything that we've covered, let's go ahead and sum up chapter 34.
Yeah, not an easy chapter, this one, was it? The Shechemites do wrong in forcing Dinah to start with. Simeon and Levi, in response, jump straight pretty much to violent revenge, and they become the real bad actors in this chapter. And, those who take vengeance under the pretext of righteous indignation, they do far more harm than good for the cause of Jesus, because they harden the hearts of many who may otherwise be won to the truth. And so when we look for justice, only God can give and administer justice, because he is the only one who is perfect and complete.
Well, that is it for today, dear friends. We're really looking forward to being back next time as we continue the Bible account of Jacob, whose name now becomes Israel, and his 12 sons. Well, my name is Esther, and for John Matthews saying thank you for listening to today's Mission 66.
As we close today's program, take a minute to download your free study guide. You'll be able to follow along every single day. Plus, you can engage with the reflection and application questions so you can apply the teaching to your life. It's a great companion resource to the audio Bible teaching of John Matthews and Esther Sisulu. To get your free study guide, visit mission66.org. That's mission66.org. You can also support the ministry of Mission 66 when you visit the site. Your gift makes it possible for this great teaching to be heard in many languages around the world. Mission 66 is a ministry of Trans World Radio in partnership with Dr. Luis Sayao.